Hello, welcome everyone. Uh, Welcome, good evening. I think we have about 11 people. If you can hear me, drop some emoji so I know you can hear me. Okay, welcome Abimbola. Welcome Abimbola. If you're here, just drop a comment. So I'm sure you're here. So if you're here, just drop a comment. Welcome Toby. Welcome Genius Soft. Welcome. Yeah, evening. Okay, so as usual, we are going to start with some welcome Adeleke. We are going to start with some of the questions that were dropped in the group. I hope Rachel is here because she dropped some questions. That's Rachel. Okay, Abimbola Omoni dropped some questions, and we are going to start with the question. I hope Abimbola is here. Welcome Vixen, welcome Bamidele, welcome Badamusi, welcome Bumi, welcome Uchenna, welcome Abasiaba Okono, welcome Ayomide. The audio first. What's wrong with the audio, Shinayomi? Can you hear me clearly? Hello, welcome Balogun. Welcome. Can everyone hear me? If you can't hear me, let me know so we can actually take a look at the audio before we start. But I think the audio should be fine from here. From the signal I'm getting, I think the audio is fine. Welcome, Mr. Fate. Fate Amanze, welcome. Okay, so loud and clear, sir. Okay, awesome. Okay, so someone posted a question in the group. Someone Abimbola Omoni. Abimbola Omoni said, "Good afternoon, coach. Thanks for the knowledge impacted so far. Blah blah blah. My questions are lengthy, collated from blah 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 week. Okay, so the first question she asked is, please, can you go over images and cards in Figma? I don't understand the size dimension given in the material. This seems larger than mobile frame. Okay, we'll take a look at that. Also, for the WCAG text background contrast, it says the ratio should be 4 to 5 to 1 for regular text, blah blah. Okay, that's for accessibility. The difference between, she also said, what's the difference between CTA and buttons? Okay, and she's also trying to confirm sizes for typography. She said whether the sizes we gave were limited to mobile phones. Okay, great, good questions. Okay, there's another question here. Okay, this one is from last week. I think I didn't actually answer this one, from Rachel Ikile. Rachel Ikile, if you can't add more than 3 pages, that means you are using professional, right, a team without uh, maybe signing up for students access. So what you can do is to upgrade your Figma account to student, that's to education plan, so that you can actually add more than 3 pages, or you can just maintain your design. You can just do your designs inside your draft folder. That way you can add more pages. Okay, Mr. Francis David. Thinking this one. Okay, please. Why don't we create the secondary color during our task? We only have primary, accent, neutral, and semantic colors. What about secondary colors? Okay, for this particular question, secondary colors. I think there was a video that showed you how you can create secondary colors. But whatever you're doing, just make sure any color you are creating, uh, works well with the primary color, and I think we talked about how to actually create that in the color video. Okay, so I'm just going to pick some of these questions. If you have questions, don't forget to log into Google Classroom and drop your question under the picture. There's a picture there with the same flyer, so just go there and drop your questions. Okay, so I also expect us to be watching this live with our books and pen, so you can jot down things and also ask questions where necessary. Okay, Oluwapelumi, please, I'm not in the group, can I be added? Yes, you can be added, but if you're not in the group, that means you are probably also not registered on the platform, because if you're registered on the platform, you should also be in the group. But I will say we'll definitely add you up. You can check out our social media handles, then follow us. From there you can join the Telegram group. Yeah. Okay, so for our first questions, please, what are the images and cards in Figma? Can you go over images and cards in Figma? This particular one, okay, I'll just brush through it because we just have like 30 minutes for this particular revision. And then she also asked question on accessibility, and also what's the difference between CTAs and button. Okay, I think I will start with this one. So if you're here, Abimbola Omoni, the major difference between CTAs and buttons, though they are almost the same, they are all buttons, right? Both CTA and buttons are buttons, but CTAs are given more attention because they drive primary actions, because the meaning of CTA is call to action buttons, right? So they are a little bit more pronounced, they are a little bit more important. Example of a call to action button is something like add to cart. Another example could be sign up, right? Another example could be subscribe. So these are call to actions. Okay, another example could be make payment. So these are call to actions. So any button that is primarily towards calling the person to take a particular action, that is what you call a CTA. So CTAs are call to action buttons, right? They're a little bit different from your other forms of button, right? Like the normal buttons that you use, maybe you click to perform a particular action, or button groups. But generally, they are all buttons, just that more prominent is given to the CTA button. So in most websites, you'll find out that the CTA buttons are a little bit more kind of, pronounced. Maybe they are a little bit bigger, or their colors are a little bit brighter, or they might be the ones using the primary color, okay, while the other buttons remain there. So yeah, they are all buttons, but CTAs are given more prominence because they are call to action buttons. That is, they drive the primary action of a particular screen, okay? Just like when you have a shopping cart that has two buttons, one might be pay, make payment, the other one might be cancel. Now those two are actually buttons, but that one telling you to pay now, that one is the call to action button. That is what you call the CTA buttons. Okay, the next question, can we use just the 4 sizes in our design? Just the 4 font sizes in our design. One of the materials suggested we either go for 12, 14, okay, okay, I think we're having some network issue, but I hope to resolve this. Okay, so I'm trying to, let's go to stream health. Okay, sir, if you can hear me, please drop a comment in the comment section. Let me be sure you guys are still hearing me, because we are also monitoring the network closely to make sure it doesn't drop. So if you can hear me, drop a comment section. Drop a comment in the comment section. So let me be sure that you can hear me. Are we still together? Okay, great. Okay, great. We are back. Okay. Okay. So, like, she asked a question. She asked whether we should always use those font sizes that were specified in those documents. My answer right now is yes. Go ahead and make use of those font sizes. They are perfect and they will work for you. As you are starting, you don't want, there are things you shouldn't be bothered about. Things like making some unnecessary decisions like font sizes. What font size is okay? Right? Because sometimes that's what takes a lot of time for designers that are just starting, because they don't know what font size should be okay for a particular screen. Okay, so that's why you've been given those guides. So if you're working on mobile, just make sure your body copy, and by now I know you understand what I mean by body copy. Just make sure your body copy is size 14. If you want to be very generous, you can make it 16, but size 14 should work. Right? Now for your display text, you can go with size 32. 32 is perfect. It will work. Okay, if you are trying to be a little bit more generous, you can go with 36, but don't exceed 36. If not, it will look bigger than larger than large, if that's a word. Okay, now for your headings, you can go ahead and use something like 24. Okay, on mobile. Then for your subheadings or category headings, you can now use something like 18 bold, right? 18 bold. So that should be fine. Then for your nav bar, for your tab bar on mobile, for your tab bar, if you are using icons and labels, your label should be size 12. That should work. The only time you can go lower is if you want to make the font a little bit more tiny, maybe just to accommodate space. You can go with size 10, but whatever you do, don't go lower than size 10, else it won't be legible, and then accessibility suffers. So from, I think, although when we get to advanced UI design, we'll start taking accessibility more serious. We talked about more on accessibility because it's actually a very huge topic that you should know about and consider when creating your designs. Okay, but for now, just stick to those font sizes. And the guides there for your for your tab bar. That's where you have your navigation at the bottom. For the font size, use 12. That's the icon labels. Use 12. Now for your text, for your body copy, use 14. Okay, for your body copy, use 14. For your category headings, use 18 bold. For your headings, you can go 24, and for your display, you can do 32. Okay. This next question is all about accessibility. I think we'll talk about accessibility more in the next part of the UI design, right? For now, we just want to focus more on knowing how to use Figma. Okay. Let me see the network. I hope we have questions. So I'm just going to do a couple of revisions just to re-explain some things. Then we head over to today's topic, which is prototyping in Figma. Okay. So on that note, if you have any question as well, you can just drop it in the comment section so we can just take a look at it. Okay, so if you can hear me, I think we're having a little bit of network issue here. Hopefully this issue is resolved from our ISP so that we can have better streaming experience going forward. Yeah, if you can hear me, just indicate in the comment section that you can hear me, so I know that we are working together. Genius Soft, you dropped the question. Let me see if I get that, if I can see that question. I'm not sure you dropped this question. I'm not sure you dropped this question under that post, but let me go through and see. Okay, I think you said, why don't we why don't we have to create secondary colors during our task? We only have our primary color. Well, for that, the app we're trying to create can actually work. Yes, can actually work with the uh, primary color. That's why we are moving ahead without trying to create a secondary color. But creating a secondary color is easy to do. You just have to find a color that pairs better with whatever you are trying to work on, right? And there's a tool that was also shared on one of the lessons, like Adobe Color Wheel. You can actually use it to, find a color that matches or contrasts well with your primary color. Then you can go with that color. But remember, colors have some psychological meaning, so make sure whatever color you are matching with, it also goes with the mood of that particular design. But these things are not difficult. There are easy ways to get this. You can generate color palettes. You can ask your clients if they have any color they prefer. Okay. So Justice Uchenna, yes, the font sizes I just talked about is for mobile design. When you come to desktop, when you're on desktop, you can just add +8 to all of them. So when you're on desktop, your body copy should be 16. 14, you can use 14, but for now, please use 16 so that it comes out well, so that anybody that is looking at it, I think we did just take a look at what we did so far for the display and the rest. So it will give you a great start. Okay, so Mr. Genius Soft, yeah, we didn't get a secondary color because what we are trying to design really doesn't need much color. But if what you are designing, there is need, or a product you are designing, there is need for a secondary color, you can go ahead and create a secondary color. But always remember, the first thing is to ask your client or ask whoever that is giving you the job if they have a color palette. Chances are they will have, but if they don't have, yeah, then they can go ahead and give you a go ahead to get those color palettes. Then once they give you a go ahead, type of client, no matter what you do, no matter the kind of color palette you come up with, it won't move them, because they are the first stakeholders you are to appease. So it won't move them. They will just be like, no, 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 I need this my color that my mother have selected for me. Okay. Except you are able to convince them beyond reasonable doubt that their color won't work, but your own will work, and then give them professional backup. Then they can buy that idea. Rain is falling. Oh, so sorry about that. The network, yeah? Okay, great. Welcome, Toby. So I think that's the only question we have. So I'm just going to move over to Figma now so we can start today's class properly. Okay? Um, but before that, I just want to be sure that everyone can hear me. If you can hear me, just type in I can hear you or something like that. Let me just know that everyone can hear me. If you can hear me, just type I can hear you. Okay, 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 great. Okay, so I'll proceed right away to what we have for today. That's animation. Yes, okay, okay. So let me proceed now. Now remember, while we're on this, if you have any question, you can go to Google Classroom and drop the question there so that I can attend to your questions. So prototype in Figma. So what exactly is a prototype? Hawa Hassan. Hassan, I didn't see your question. Chiebuka, you didn't miss much. We are just starting. Hassan, Hawao, how, I don't really know how to pronounce your name, but I'll go with Hassan. Hassan, I really can't, I didn't see your question. I don't know where you dropped it. John from, okay, I think you just pasted it on the stream. That he said, if I move the card up while it's on clip content of corner radius 16, it changes the text when I shift it up. Expect I offer either clip content or corner radius. I tried adding clip content to the first component we created, and when I move the text, changed. I also tried the login on the splash screen. The same. I really don't get this question, Hassan. I don't get this question. I really don't get the question. So I don't actually understand what you're trying to achieve. So I didn't get that question. So okay, guys. So let's move over to Figma and take a look at prototyping in Figma. Now, what exactly is prototyping? So prototyping is preliminary version of a product or system, typically built to test a concept or process, or to act as an object to be replicated or learned from. Okay, so this is very important. So a prototyping is a preliminary version of a product. That's like the first version of a product that you create, right? Sometimes it can be that product but in a lower version, or it could be that product in, you know, in a paper version, just like we are going to see next, right? So what are the types of prototypes we have? We have mainly 4 types of prototype. Okay, you have low fidelity prototypes. So these prototypes basically are often based on papers. They are simple representation of concept or design. They can be sketches, wireframe, or even physical mock-up made of basic material. Now, you should understand that when we talk about prototype or when we talk about UX design, we are not just talking about digital products. We are also talking about physical products, right? If you want to create like a car, or okay, I think car might be complex for this example. Let's say you want to create, okay, let's go with trying to see a scenario that can be very easy for everyone to get. Let's say you want to create like a cap, let's say a cap, right? What you can do before creating the cap, or even those in fashion design, let's assume you want to sew a cloth. What you can do before going ahead to use the client's material to make your new design that they did not approve, right, is to first of all maybe use like a carton, or just use that material but in small quantity to make like a miniature version of that cloth. So you're just making like the cloth for a doll baby, right? So you make the cloth for a doll baby, like a very small miniature version. Now that can be what you call a prototype. Then you can share it with the client and they look at it and say, okay, I like this style, I like what you've done with the beats here, blah, 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 but I don't like this and I don't like that. Can we do this to make it better, right? And then you go back, you adjust it, and once it's approved, you can now go ahead and use the entire 6 yards to create the cloth. Okay, so prototypes, that's what prototypes basically is. So in UX design, you don't only design for digital products, you can also design for physical products, and that is why you need to know about prototypes. So we have low fidelity prototypes. Okay, these are the ones you do basically with paper, right, or just basic wireframes. If it's an app, you can actually draw all the screens the wireframes of the screens on paper, then you can kind of, use some colored paper to show where the button is and where the next screen it should take the person to once they tap that paper. Basically, it's just a visual guide, basically. And then you have the next one, which are high fidelity prototypes. Now, these are more refined and often interactive. They resemble the final product and more closely in terms of detail and functionality. They can be clickable digital mock-ups or working models of a product. So you also have high fidelity prototypes, okay, which are basically, they can be mock-ups, high fidelity mock-ups. They almost look and work like the real product, but they are not. They are only put out there to actually test and get feedback from users, okay? Then you have the functional prototypes. These are working models of the final product, but might not look like the final product. They are useful for testing how something works, okay? So the definition actually gives you the explanation, basically. Then we have the last one, the visual prototypes. This looks like the final product, but don't work. They are usually for assessing aesthetics and forms, just like what we do most of the times in Figma. So when you are working in Figma, sometimes you just want to create what you call a visual prototype. So what we'll be doing basically is going to be a visual prototype. But in the real world, most people don't do visual prototype, right? In the real world, most people do what you call high fidelity prototypes. That's what most people do, right? That means after your design, Chiebuka, you want to drop questions in the comment section. Okay, you can try that. If I or my colleague sees it, we can pick it up and ask. But there's also going to be an open session for questioning, especially for prototype, okay? Now, like I was saying, in the real world, what most agencies use is what you call high fidelity prototypes, right? That's what most agencies use. Now, depending on the stage of the product, some people either go for high fidelity prototypes or functional prototypes because it gives them more liberty. So let's assuming you finished your design, what they do is to get a programmer to program some of the basic parts, especially the part for interaction and the rest. They program some of those basic parts. Sometimes they might use solutions like, they might use no-code solutions, so they don't spend much time on resources. So they might use no-code solutions like WordPress or Wix and the rest of them. They might use a no-code solution to, at least, especially if it's a website, they might use a no-code solution to just build out the first high-fidelity prototype to test, so that they can get user feedback using techniques like heat maps and user surveys and things like that. So yeah, so this is what the two most important, the two most widely used ones in the real world. But as a designer, you should know how to create at least basic visual prototypes. So this can actually even help the developers when developing the high fidelity prototype, okay? And then you have functional prototypes, like I mentioned earlier. So these are the two. Low fidelity prototypes, most times people still use it, but it's not that popular nowadays, okay? So because we've almost digitalized everything. And the disadvantage of low fidelity prototypes is you have to be close to the person to be actually to be able to actually get their feedback. They need to be there presently, okay? The next screen. So when it comes to Figma, Figma gives you opportunity to create two types of prototypes. So you can do frame to frame, or better put screen to screen, okay? So screen to screen prototype or frame to frame prototype is basically where you move from one screen to another, okay? Maybe you want to move from the sign up screen to the sign in screen, or you want to move from the login screen to the dashboard, okay? So this is going to be a screen to screen relationship. So you want to move from one screen to another screen. So frame to frame or screen to screen prototype. So you want to simulate maybe when the person when the person clicks on sign in, then it takes them to the dashboard. So if what you discover is that it's taking that person basically from one screen to another screen. So for that, you probably want to do frame to frame animation. We'll go to Figma soon and see how all these things work, okay? Then the next one is component elements. So this one, basically, you will use it a lot when you want to add what is called micro interactions. So when you want to add micro interactions, you do a lot of component elements, okay? You do a lot of animations with component elements. So let's say you have a component, and something like that, our feedback on the input form. Let's assume you want a situation whereby when you click on that form, it becomes active, okay? So that is component element. So you can actually animate or add prototyping to elements within a component, okay? So these are the two main types you would see in Figma. Either you are moving from one screen or frame to another, or you are moving between elements in a component. And yes, those elements can actually be frame to frame, but just understand that you can move from the bigger screen you have, your bigger external frame, to another frame, and also you can move to animating component element, okay? If you can hear me so far, drop some comments there so that I can know that we are together in this class. So I'm waiting for your feedback. Drop some comments to let me know that you can hear me. And if you have any question before I move to the next part, just drop them. So we have like 2 minutes. If you have any question, drop them. In 2 minutes, if I don't see any question, then I'll proceed to the next part. So let's do this. Drop your question if you have them. Any question? Okay, so no question. So let's move ahead. So when it comes to prototyping, okay, when it comes to prototyping, it's all about state management and sequence. It's all about state management and sequence. Now pay attention because this is very important. So when it comes to prototyping, it's all about state management and sequence. I will explain that when we get to Figma. Like it's all about state management and sequence. Now you have a starting state and then an ending state. That's basically how it works. You have a start state and end state. That is the beginning of that particular interaction and the end of that particular interaction. In fact, prototyping is a little bit like animation. It has this element of animations in it, okay? So someone is asking question, what does it mean? Chiebuka, for this particular question, we might take it in the next live. So we've actually, if you want to ask question that within the week, you have to try and come earlier so that you can ask them. Right now, I'm only taking question based on prototype. We are talking about prototyping now, okay? I don't want to go off course. So that's why we started with questions that are not related to prototyping when we started. So we could answer them before we go into prototype. Right now, any question coming in should be related to prototyping so we don't go off course. Okay, Chebuka, okay, you've asked, Does prototyping only possible for frames and component elements? Basically on Figma, yes. But then what do you want to animate if they are not component element or frames? What else would you like to animate? Because everything in Figma is frame. Everything you do in Figma is frames, you know. So it's either you animate frames or you animate maybe components, okay? That's elements inside the components. So yeah, so it's all about state management. If you know your starting state and the end state, then you can just create your prototype. So for instance, I want to move from screen 1 to screen 2. If that is what I want to do, I'll know that, okay, my starting state is screen 1 and my ending state is screen 2. So I will arrange the two screens, right? And then create a prototype, maybe if I want to transition between screen 1 to screen 2. Remember, this is just to give the person an idea of the app or the flow of the app. So you can move, right? When it comes to prototype, you can move, you don't always move in a uniform manner, right? Just because your flow have sign up, OTP and the rest, you might not actually move that way. So you can move in different directions. So either you do from start to end. You also have start state, middle state, and end state. Now these are basically used mostly for micro interactions. When it comes to micro interactions, you can have your start state, then in between the start to the end state, there might also be some changes basically in between them before the ending state, okay? So like I said, it's all about state management and sequence. Now the next thing with prototyping in Figma is what you call triggers. Triggers is how would that animation, prototype start. So that's basically what trigger is. How should it start? So when it comes to how should it start, you have on click, while hovering, and on drag. These are the three most popular ones. You have other ones there, including open overlay, right? You have other ones there on trigger, but these three are definitely the most popular and the most ones you are likely to use, especially on click and while hovering. Now we have the last thing, which is timing. Timing is how should it start? How should the animation or the prototype, the prototyping you are trying to do, how should it start? Okay. Now remember, we're talking of prototyping in Figma. In other aspects like physical products, if you are building a chair and you are making a prototype of that chair, there is no animation for it. So you have to take note of the context we are using this prototype in, right? So this is prototype as it relates to Figma and digital product. Because basically in digital product, when you talk about prototyping, it's all about adding the little interactions that goes on to actually carry out the particular task flow. Okay, so that's basically what people mean when they say prototype. So if you are a designer and someone say, can I see the prototype of the design, right? They want to see the design. They want to also see some of the interactions, like when you click on sign up, what should happen? Okay, so that is basically the difference between the two. Omoni, please, what is the difference between on click and on tap? The major difference between on click and tap is just device, right? It's just device. So that's the major difference. So depending on if you are using keyboard or you are just using, like on keyboard, you see some special functions like on pressed down, things like that. Okay, so it's device based. So for timing, we want to take a look at how should it start. Okay, how should it start? Should it start when the trigger is pulled? Okay, so should it start when the trigger is pulled? Omoni, hope you understand what I mean. I think I forgot to even confirm. Hope you understand what I mean, that is device based. For instance, on desktop you can't have on tap. On desktop you have on click because people click on the desktop. Okay, but on mobile phones you have tap. People tap buttons, right? But Figma made it in such a way that even if you use on click for the mobiles, it will just work. Okay, yeah. So yes, that's it, Amanze. Yes, that's correct. So that's why I said it's just device based. It's not really something serious. Okay. So let's talk about timing. So how should it start? Okay. So we have three main types of timing. You have on trigger. That means it should start. So yeah, no be gone. So it should start when you click, or when you hover, or when you drag. That is the on trigger you have right there. Or should it start automatically? Should it start automatically? Now, when it comes to the control, so we have on click and automatic. Then when you come to control, you have things like maybe once, maybe repeat, or you have loop. So you have timing. It can be on trigger or automatic, or you can now set it to loop continuously. Okay, so yeah, so that's what you have for that. I don't know if you have any question, so ask your question before we move over to Figma and see how to actually create some of these prototypes. So what I want you to do after this live, you should be able to ask questions in real time while we answer them, and then by tomorrow or later today, once you are free, you can come back to this live and then just fast forward it to this part and try rewatching it and seeing what to do. Okay, Ngozi, I'll have to go. Okay, that's fine, Ngozi. But if you have question, it's always good to ask it now, because when you are coming back to watch it, nobody will be there to answer your question. But if you have question, please do well to drop those questions right away. Okay. Let me go ahead now and head over to Figma. Okay, let me give us five minutes to drop some questions, so I know that everyone is following along. 5 minutes, drop some questions so I can attend to those questions. So I'm waiting. Once 5 minutes, if there are no questions, then we proceed. Okay, sir, can we know more about micro interactions? Yeah, micro interactions are basically it's just those tiny little interactions that improve user experience. Okay, they are very important. It can help with user experience. For instance, the Facebook like button. You'd notice that when you click on it, it doesn't just change color. It moves. It just moves a little bit. That small motion that it makes gives you this sense of, this thing is really like button. Okay, so those are just micro interactions. They are basically four ways to create them, but I think there will be a note on that. But if you know how to create the normal Figma prototypes, you can also animate micro interaction. What of laptops that are screen touch? Can you use tap instead of click? Mr. Chebuka, yes, you can, but the people you are designing for, are you sure their own laptop is screen touch, right? The client you are about to send the prototype to preview or to review, or the users you are sending it to review, are you sure their system is screen touch, or you want to send them all screen touch? So you have to stay on the safe side by using on click. Shinayomi John, yes, there are other softwares. In fact, if you want to really pursue a career in prototyping, you would consider other softwares like ProtoPie or After Effects. So you can use ProtoPie or After Effects, right? And if you don't want to stress yourself, you can use your mouth and tell the developer, I want this thing to jump up when you click on it. But then but then most companies won't pay you for that, because they want you to actually make the thing easier. But I know a lot of UX designers that basically describe what they want for maybe using apps like Loom, right? They just tell the developer, so yeah, I want when they click on this button, this should happen. And because at the end of the day, it's the code that really makes the thing work. So if you want do all your prototype, if the company does not have a programmer that can implement your prototype, they will leave it and just use the normal prototypes, okay, the normal animations. Yes, there is actually such thing as career in prototyping. Okay. So someone says, sir, the prototyping on Figma, is it only about app? Because you mostly mention app. I'm mentioning app because app are basically the future. In fact, there is an app for almost everything. So you can use Figma for mobile app, web app, website, VR, AR, different types of, but please, if you want to focus on AR and VR, just use Figma and learn, but that is not where the magic happens. You can look for the Facebook platform, okay, or Apple's platform, right? So yeah, there are other apps that you can use. And while I've been using saying mobile is because most of what we'll be designing will be mobile and web, okay, but more of mobile, because once you understand designing for mobile, it's easy to understand designing for web app and websites. Okay, Kizito, no, both the on-click and tap, we just started them today, okay? So maybe you are just coming in now. We are talking about different triggers for prototyping. When you want to prototype, different triggers on how to start. And here, this is where they got that from. We have on the trigger, you have on click while hovering, on drag. So someone asked the question whether on click and on tap is the same. Then the answer is that it depends. They are just device based. Mostly on desktop you use on click, and on mobile phones you use on tap. But if you still use on click on mobile phone, it's going to work just absolutely well. Okay, any other question? So with that out of the way, I'm going to go ahead and show us where the prototype panel is. So after your design tab, the next panel you have there is prototype. This is it right here. So under prototype, there are a lot of things you can actually do right here. Under prototype, you can see right now, you can select the device in which you want to always view the prototype in. Okay, so under the device you have none, but here you have different devices. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and give us a quick overview of that. So let's assume I'm designing. Let me go back to design, and let me just design something quickly. Let me put a background color there. Let me put any background color, but of course you know I'll put blue. Then let me type in some text. Let me say hello designer. Okay, once I type this text, let me go ahead and increase it. So once I've done this, okay, what I can do next now is, if I want to preview this, if I just go to this icon here, I can click on this drop down icon and click on present, so that it's going to open in a new tab. But if I should click on preview, I will actually see the screen right here on Figma. But let me use present. So if I go to present, it's going to open a new tab to show me the color, to show me the prototype. Yes, I always use blue. Like I said, I like sticking to the safe side. Now you can see how this prototype just appeared here. Okay, you can see how it appeared just in the normal box. Okay, now if I want to change, let's assume this is a website. It's a website. I can go back to prototype, and when I deselect, I can choose a device. So let me scroll down, and let's go ahead and choose that MacBook Pro 16. So if I choose MacBook Pro 16, if I come back here, and then let me deselect this now. Let me just close it. If I come back here, remember I've chosen MacBook Pro 16, okay? If I go back and preview, you see that this prototype now will be previewed in a MacBook Pro 16 mock-up. So that's basically what that device is all about. Okay, it's loading. Now you can see the mock-up right here. You can see the MacBook Pro mock-up right here, and then you can see my design right inside. Now the design is not filled up because I didn't use the same size. Let me go ahead and make this size instead of let's see how much what's the size of the MacBook Pro. Let's go to desktop, laptop. Okay, it's not here, but basically let me come back here. But you can see it is now in a kind of MacBook Pro interface. Okay, if I was designing a mobile, if I'm designing a mobile, let's say I'm designing something iPhone 14 Pro Max. Okay, let me use this now for the people that think they've known me. I will shock you people now, because I'm not going to use blue now. Instead, I'm going to go with dark blue. Congratulations to me. So let me type in something. Yes, I know some of you will say from blue to dark blue. Is it not the same? Okay, so if you are designing for a mobile phone like this, okay, what you can do is to come into your prototype and then change the device. Let me close this first. Change the device. Now, instead of MacBook Pro 16, I want to go and change the device to iPhone 15. Okay, that way when I click on this and I click on present, it's going to present it's going to present it in an iPhone 15 interface. So let's watch and see while it loads. Okay, great. Now we can see our design in an iPhone 15 mockup. So I hope you understand this this first thing we just took a look at, which is setting your device. Okay, so setting your device. So if you have any questions so far, you can ask. Remember, we have I'm going to give 2 minutes for you to ask your question, and if you don't have your, if I don't see any question, I will proceed. Yes, at least it's not blue, it's dark blue. Okay, 2 minutes. Any question? Let's drop it before we proceed. Okay, so I assume there are no questions. So let's, okay, let me just wait a little bit more. Yeah, blue just coincidentally happened to also be our brand colors. Yeah, Faith, you can always rewatch, but before you come back to rewatch, if you have question, drop it. What if the element in the frame get cut off while changing screen? You should know now. So if you are designing for desktop, don't go and use mobile for your preview. Make sure you use laptop. Okay, use desktop according to your desktop screen size. Use that. If you are designing for mobile, don't go and use laptop. Just use mobile to do your preview. Okay, and if you are talking about the horizontal one, the vertical one, sorry, if it is, let's assume you are designing a website, and then the website is longer, you can now scroll. You can scroll when you're on prototype mode. You can scroll. Faith, I don't think I fully grasp the whole process. We've not actually talked about any process, Faith. So nothing to grasp yet, just to, understand the basic concepts. We've not dropped anything for you to grasp. Yes, you can use the mockup when previewing for prototype. It just gives it some kind of nice feelings. But then there are some apps, there are sometimes you don't want any device preview, right? So if I come back here and go to device preview, if I set it to none, if I come back and reload my presentation, let me go to present, it's just going to load the screen size. It's not going to, there is no paparazzi here, there is no mock-up here. It's just going to load the frame as it is. Most of the time, this is also what most people want to do. Okay, it wants me to scroll. Okay, that's that page right there. Okay, so yeah. Okay, so this is where the grasping part comes in now, faith. So pay better attention so you can grasp what we're trying to do now. Okay, so how do you prototype? First, you want to create your design. Okay, you want to have your design. Obviously, you need to have your design. Okay, then your design, like we said, it's all about state management. It's all about state management. Okay, it's all about state management. So remember that place that says it's all about state management. If you want to create a design from one screen to another, it's all about state management. So here I'm going to do the first typical one, which is screen to screen, screen 1. Okay, screen 1, and Control D. I'm going to call this one screen 2. Screen 2. Screen 1. And I think instead of screen 1 and screen 2, let me use something. Login page. And then dashboard. Okay, so you have login page and dashboard. For the dashboard, I'm also going to give it another color. So I'm still going to surprise you guys. I'm going to make sure I don't use blue. So I'll just use something like baby blue instead. Okay, so I have 2 screens now, my screen 1 and screen 2. Okay, I have the login page and the login and the dashboard screen. Okay, login screen and the dashboard screen. Now I want a situation whereby when people click something on this page, it takes them to this other page. Okay, there is no easy way to do this if you don't prototype them. It is during the prototype that you determine the flow, how you move from one screen to another. So what do I need to do? You can see that the first thing I did was to create both designs. Okay, I created both designs. So both designs are actually ready. I can see design 1, which is my login page, which is screen 1, and I can also see design 2, which is my dashboard page. Now the next thing I need to do is to select or determine the trigger. What should trigger this action? Okay, what should trigger this action? Once you've made decision on what to trigger the action, you can go ahead and start prototyping. In my own case, I want them to click on a button that says log in. Okay, now for this our login page, let's just create a simple button. Let's create a simple button, and this button, please don't do your button like this. So I'm just trying to be fast. Okay, let me do Shift A. Let me do 50, 20. Okay, let me add a color to it. So let me go ahead and add a color to this button, and let me just increase the size a little bit. Remember, I'm just trying to show you guys how to create this thing. So now, I want a situation whereby you can see there are two screens, login page, dashboard. I want a situation whereby when someone clicks on login, it should take them to dashboard. Now, how do we implement that? We implement it using prototype. So all you need to do is to go to prototype. Now, once you're on prototype, these elements, you see they will start having like this bubble at the edge, this circle with the plus, okay? All this circle with the plus, you start seeing it, and that is where you actually click, hold, and drag. So what I want to do now is to go ahead, click and hold, then drag. Click, hold, drag, okay? Now, once I drop it, I'm going to see some options. Options like the first one here, which is the trigger, okay? First one, which is the trigger. So I'm just going to zoom in so we can see that. We have the trigger here. So if you click on the trigger, you can see different types. You have none. That means you don't want any trigger. You have on click, on drag, while hovering, while pressing, keypad, mouse design, blah, blah, blah. We are not going to talk about all these things now. Instead, what we are going to majorly talk about is on click, on drag, and while hovering. They are the two most important ones, okay? On click, on drag, and while hovering. Now, on click simply means when the user clicks on that element, that is on click. When the user clicks on that element. Meanwhile, on drag means when the user drags the element. Clicking is just to left click, while dragging is right click and hold and move. So when the user drags the element, okay? While hovering is when you hover on the element. When the user hovers on the element, what should happen? That is while hovering, okay? So these are the three we'll be taking a look at more often. So for this particular one, we want a situation whereby if someone should click on this login, remember I said if someone should click on this login, it should bring them to this page. And remember, you need to have all your page set up, okay? So for that, all you need to do is to come in here and choose on click, because we want that action to happen after clicking, okay? So on click, you now have how should it move, what should happen. You now have navigate to, change to, and back. Now you have some new set of functionalities here, like set variables, conditional scroll to, open link, open overlay, swap overlay, close overlay. We might not talk about most of this. Basically, we are going to focus more on navigate to, change to, and as well as open overlay, okay, and maybe swap overlay as well. So yeah, so what we are going to do now is to click on navigate to. So navigate to selected is asking me to where? Yes, it should navigate to screen 2, which is this screen that have the what? Dashboard. And then it's asking how do we want it? What transition should it use? Should it be instant? Instant means immediately you click it, it comes in, okay? Or should it be dissolve? We all know that dissolve animation, right, from PowerPoint. Should it be dissolved? Or should it be smart animate? Now, this is one of the powerful prototyping tool feature created. It's very powerful, the smart animate feature. Or do you want it to move in, move out, blah, blah, blah. For now, let's go ahead and choose move in. So I'm going to select move in. And then once I choose move in, it has given me 4 arrows for me to choose the direction in which it's going to move in from. And for me, I'm going to say from top to bottom. And then for easy ease out, okay, easy ease out, you want to, for now, just use easy out 300 ms. With time, you can actually start customizing some of these things, especially when we get to the advanced UI course, okay? So yeah, let's go ahead and test this out. Let's go to our prototype. Let me select this, okay? Let me select this screen, and then let's go to prototype, and then let me hit on preview. Now that my preview is out, you notice that if I go close to this login icon, you can see that here my mouse changes to a cursor. The mouse pointer changes to a real cursor to point, to click something. Okay? Now, if you want to know all the active layers on a Figma screen that can be clicked on, just click outside. Once you click outside your design or outside the design element, you are going to see all the clickable areas in that design highlighted in blue. So let me click it again so you see what happens. Okay, so all these ones highlighting in blue is simply telling the client, yes, you can click on me. So if there is anything you would want to drive action to, okay, or maybe someone send you a Figma screen and you want to know where the interactions are, simply click outside. You are going to see this blue. Now watch what happens once I click on login. It takes me to dashboard, and then you can see the moving effect. You can see the moving effect. Now, just so that we can play more around with this, I'm going to add a back button. I'm going to add a back button that if I click on, it should take me back to that particular screen. So to do that, I'll have to come back to here, go back to design, okay, go back to design. Let's look for chevron. Oh, I forgot we don't have our Kinikon here. Okay, let me just draw a very wicked triangle and rotate it. And now remember, this is not like an official design. I just want to make sure we are fast enough. Okay, so for this back button now, okay, our back button is supposed to be on our dashboard page. And on our dashboard, we are going to prototype. Then we prototype it back to the original page. So click and drag, you know, it's click, hold, and drag. So once you drag it, yes. So Figma remembers all our previous settings. So if I go back now here, you can see that black button is, gray button is out. If I click on it, I go back to loading page. And if I click on login, I go into dashboard. So this is basically the animation you use for most of your interaction that needs click and move to the next screen. Click and move to the next screen. So this is basically screen to screen animation. Okay, so I'm just going to give another 5 minutes for anyone who has a question to drop them in the comment section so I can see if I can look at them if time permits. Okay, I can see no question. No question. So let's proceed to the next one. So you can see, let me test it out again. Click on this button, it goes. Click on this button, it shows you. So you can see we are moving from one screen to another screen, controlling it with elements on that page. So this is screen to screen or frame to frame. Okay, so let's go back to Figma now. So now that we've explored dashboard, we've explored on click, let's now go to while hovering. Now, let's assume let me go back to design. Let me copy this button, okay? Now, let's assume for this button, we want a situation whereby when someone hovers on it, it should bring out a text or something that says, what should we use? maybe something should pop up. When you hover on it, it should pop up another button that says click here instead. Okay, so let me double click on this. Okay, and let me just go ahead and make this more realistic. Let me use point there. Let me use 48 by 48. Okay. Now remember, we want something that we want a situation whereby once we hover on this particular button with plus, it should bring out these other buttons. Okay, that's what we are trying to achieve. So the first, like I said, your start state and your end state. Okay, your start state and your end state is very important. Now, I can select these three now because these three are separate. I can select them and add them in an auto layout. Okay. Once I add them in an auto layout, I'm not doing design here. I'm just explaining concepts to you. Now, remember, I said we want a situation. Let me also go ahead and select these two and do Shift A. We want a situation whereby when we click on this plus sign or when we hover, we've tried click, we've seen how click works. We want a situation whereby when we hover on this plus sign, these ones will come up. They will show in this arrangement. What you need to do is to create two of these. Okay, we are going to create two of these. Now, in one of the states, remember we said it's all about state management. We've created two. We want to move from here to here. On this particular one, we are going to hide all these other ones. So I'm going to select this frame and I'm going to hide it. Okay, let me move it downwards. So this particular one, you can see we've hidden those guys there. We've hidden them, okay? We've hidden them. So this particular one, we want a situation whereby when we click on it, it will display these other ones. Or when we, okay, let's drive it with hover instead. So what you are going to do is to select these two. That's the easy way to do it because this is going to be a component. And then instead of clicking on create component, we are going to say create component set. Okay. Now we can now go back to our prototype. Oops, all of them, they're having this this guy. Let me delete this. So you can basically delete a prototype by selecting it and hitting delete key. Okay. Okay. So what we basically want is to go from this one to this group. So this to this group. Now, anytime you want to create animations like this between a component, the best thing to use is to use what you call Smart Animate, okay? Smart Animate. So for that, we want to use this to change to yes. Instead of instant, instead of dissolve, we want to go with Smart Animate. So Smart Animate will basically recognize the two things, okay? The two things, the two elements, and then try to check their similarities and changes, and then interpolate between those two. So let's go ahead and select Smart Animate, and yes, we should do this. And when you click back on this particular one, it should come back here. Okay, so let's choose change to. Okay, we are using on click to drive it. So I'm just going to call this far button. So what I'm going to do to preview my animation, I'm just going to use here, let me call this preview. To preview my animation, I'm going to drag in that component. So let's go back to the design tab and go to asset. And under asset, we are going to see our component right there. This is it. Okay. So with this now, if I should go to present, now like I said, it's all about creating the starting point and the ending point. If you don't create the starting point or the ending point, nothing for you. Oh, let me delete the flow. So we have a flow there. Let me delete this flow. I don't want to link it. So later we'll get to understand what flow is. Okay, let's come back here. Okay, now watch now happens. Once I come to this button and click, you can see, you click, you can see the interaction we're having right there. Okay, so you click on it, it displays this other one. Now, like I said, this is not proper design. If I'm making a proper design, we want to make sure this plus is not moving around. It's supposed to be at a place, and when you click, all these other ones will pop out. But I'm just giving you a basic understanding. Over the course of the week, we are going to create, we are going to create prototypes that are going to, explain some of these things in more details and more realistically. But what I want you to notice is that for us to be able to achieve this, we created the first state and the second state. We created the state whereby it had no buttons, and then we created the state whereby it had these extra buttons. Okay, and that is why after doing the prototype, when we click, we were able to see these basic interactions. So it's all about state management. Like I said, first state, second state, first state, second state, or start state and end state. Now what if I want to create like a button? Okay, let me take this button again. Let me duplicate this button and let me remove this. What if I want a situation whereby if I hover on this button, the color should go from this blue to maybe red? What if that is what I want? I want to hover on this particular button, then instead of blue, it should move to red. All I need to do is this is my start state now. I will design the end state. That's basically it. I have to design my end state. So with this, I want to go ahead and change the color to red. Now this red. Okay, then this is my start state, this is my end state. None of this thing will come down from heaven for you. You have to create all these independent states. Okay, so I select the two of them and I go to my components and I want to select create component set. Okay, then I now want to go in and go to prototype, select this one now and then drag it here. Okay, now instead of on click, I want to say while hovering, move to that particular one. Smart animate. Now make sure you use smart animate. Okay, smart animate. Then from here I can now tell it while also maybe anyway it's while hovering, so if I should go out, it will automatically come off. So let me push this right here. Okay, let's go ahead and drag in that button and drop it in right there. So once we've dropped this in, let's go back to our prototype. Okay, let me refresh this. Let me select this. Let me select this and click on present. So it's opening. Yes, Pelumi, it's all about planning ahead. Yeah. So now you can see when I hover, it changes to red. If I move away, it goes back. Hover, it changes to red. You can see how we achieve this. The start state, the end state, the start state, the end state. Once you want to do things, animations, once you want to change animation within elements in a component, you have to create it. There are going to be variants of those particular components. Now, if you have already created your component and variants, all you need is to go inside those components and variants and animate them. But if you have not created the variant, you can create all your designs, and from there you can, move it around. So another effect you would likely see is the effect where people make use of clip content. I think there was a video someone shared today. So where people make use of clip content to also create animations, okay? How does it work? So let's say you have a text now. Let me push this just here. Now let me zoom in. Let me type in hello. I like using hello because it's very easy and fast to type. Now, let's say I want, yeah, these are part of micro interaction. Like when you hover on a button and it changes color or it just does something, it is micro interaction. Okay? So let's say this hello now, we want a situation whereby when we click on something, it should come in. It should just pick in, not appear. It should pick in. That means you want it to pick in from the bottom, not appear. Okay? Good. So Bumi is here. So let's assume you want this to pick in, not just appear. Okay? So since Bumi is here, let me make something a little bit more realistic compared to what she sent in. So I'm just going to draw a rectangle here. So I'm going to draw a rectangle here, okay? Later I'll put them in a frame. And I'm going to draw an ellipse here. Sorry. A rounded rectangle instead. Okay? And let me make this 100. Let me give this a color black. Okay? Now, let's go ahead and have another rectangle. And then this rectangle is going to be here. Okay? It's going to be here. And for this rectangle, I'm going to give it this color. And for this, let me go ahead and make it now wow, blue again. Ha! Wahala day. Okay, now let's use these three things. Let me select everything here. Let me select everything here and add them in a frame. Let me select 1, 2, add these two in a frame. Okay? I'm going to add in a frame selection. And yes, so let me also select everything now. Add them in a frame. Okay? Now, I want a situation now in this particular frame, I'm going to click on clip content. Now, I want a situation whereby when I click on if I should click on print, this thing should come out, okay? So I'm going to have print here. So Bumi, I hope you are paying attention. You dropped the video, okay? But I'm not going to be very realistic now. I'm just trying to make sure we cover some of the basic concepts so that everyone understands. In the coming weeks, your task will include prototyping. So the more you do it, the better you get at it, okay? But like I said, it's not a core skill right now. You don't need it to be hired. But it's something you can, if you get better at it, you have more prospects, okay? Now, for those of you that don't get the idea of what we are trying to do, we want to simulate a situation whereby if you should click on this receipt, print receipt, so let's call this our guy, Tada receipt. So we are going to call this our guy receipt. Let's say receipt don't show. Okay, let me group it with this guy because those are the receipts. Now, we want a situation whereby the first instance will not have this receipt, but when you click on print receipts, this receipt will show. Now what you need to do is to create the two. So since I've created, most of the time you want to create the ending part first. You want to create the ending part first, okay? So with the ending part created, this is the end state. This is what we want at the end of the day. I can now duplicate this, and this will be my first state, okay? Let me come back here and call this end state. Okay. If you can hear me, please indicate you can hear me. We went offline for a bit there, but I think we are back now. Yeah, can you guys hear me? If you can hear me, please let me know. Okay, awesome. Okay, awesome. So we are back. That's Nigeria for you. So sometimes the network just disconnects, and you have to wait a little bit to be reconnected back. So we are back, and so like I was saying, when you want to create animations like this, the first thing you want to make sure is to create your end state. So once you create your end state, it's easier for you to now hide things you don't want to see, okay? Once you now hide things you don't want to see, you can now go ahead and see the ones you intend to see. You can hide the ones you want to see and then close the ones you don't want to see. So basically that's how these things work, okay? So let me go ahead there. And let's go ahead and do this animation. It's a very, since we already have this, what we need to do now is to go ahead and convert them to a component set, okay? So let's convert them to a component set. So I'm going to select 1 and 2, and I'm going to my components and I'm going to say component sets, okay? So remember, this should be our ending, this should be our starting, okay? Once we've done that, on this particular one, I'm going to select that group. I'm going to select that group. You see this group here, this group. I'm going to select it, and then I'm just going to nudge it up. Now you can see as I'm nudging it up, nothing much is happening. But if I select this frame holding them and activate clip content, now you can see it has clipped that content inside. Oops. So let me go back and select this group and then nudge them outside of the content. I'm using my arrow key to just push it up to the point where I no longer see it. I used my arrow key to achieve this, okay, to move it up. And also I activated clip content for this particular frame. You can see this frame. This is, if you look at my layer panel, you can see that frame is the frame holding that group, that receipt group, and this black shape right here, okay? So what I can now do is to go to prototype and select. So we are clicking from here to this, okay? Now we say change to, and make sure you, okay, let me just, let me also drag from here to here on click, okay? And let me go back to my design, and I'm going to say hide. Though it's not the right context, but let me do this. Now, let me tell you something about Smart Animate. Smart Animate recognizes your layers, the names and everything, and interpolates between them. So it's very important you don't change the name of the layers, because here we have frame 12, frame 14. It should be the same on the other variant too. If you mistakenly come here and change the name, oh yeah, it will not work. So let's go ahead and drag this thing and put them here. So let's open our asset and bring that guy in. Okay, so it's seeing this one as the first screen. So let me also refresh this. Let me react. Okay, so I'm clicking on present now. This is not updating. It has not updated. I'm trying to make sure it updates. If it's not updating, let me take this to another screen and test it there. I'm taking this to another screen. Let me test it here. That one is from Figma and the network, so it's not updating. So I moved it to another screen. So let me test it from that particular screen. If you are still here and you can hear me, please click or just type in a comment so I know that you can hear me. Okay, okay. Okay, I think we are back. So I think we are back now. Yeah, the network is poor, but I think we are back now. So if you are here now, you can see that once I click on hide receipt, it hides the receipt. If I click on print receipt, the receipt comes back down. Hide, print, hide, print. So basically, this is how you achieve something like that. But then the stats now can now be set to automatic, okay? But this is basically the basic mock-up of what you had earlier. If you go in and design this thing more, if you design it better, it will come out better as well, okay? So we just did a basic design right here. So, but this is basically how it works. So this is achieved using clip content. You use clip content to achieve something like this, okay? You have to just make sure you have to, you have to preempt what you want to achieve. That's the most important thing. You want to preempt what you want to achieve, and you want to design the first state, and then from you want to design the ending states, and from the ending state you can now design your first state, right, where you want to hide things. Or once you finish your designing, you can now convert it to a component and then use your variant to play around your variant. So that is basically how to achieve something like this, Bumi. But then you can now make your design. You can do it will come back. Yeah, the network is really bad, but I think that will be sorted. I'll make sure it's sorted out. So at this point, due to the network issue, do we have any question? Let me answer some questions instead. Yes, as for practice, we'll practice a lot this coming week because we are going to be finalizing the app, and the part of finalizing the app also means prototyping it so that you can view it out. Jenny Soft, you can ask your question. Also, please, if you have not downloaded Figma Mobile, make sure you download Figma Mobile, because what we are currently working on is a mobile app. Download the Figma Mobile, mirror the design so that you can see what you are doing. Kizito, you should visit the website. I don't know. I think let me put in the website here. Or just yes, and if you are here and you are not following us on social media platforms, please do so. A lot of you failed the question on what our social media handle is. So it's Designgate NG. Designgate. Oh, I even made a mistake in the spelling. Designgate NG. Right? That is our social media handle. Designgate NG on Twitter. So you can send a message on Instagram, Kizito, because on Twitter you might need to be verified. But if you are here, try follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And also, when you are watching the tutorials, you can like, comment, and also share with your close friends. But basically, they will just watch it, but they might not be part of the stream. So next year, we are going to have another stream. Okay. So yeah. So that's just a quick information there. So yeah, if you have any question based on what we've done so far, just ask. But this is just the basic of prototyping on Figma. You have the triggers, okay, on click, while hovering, on drag, or open overlay. Okay, we've tackled open overlay already yesterday. The tutorial yesterday showed you to create, showed you how to create an overlay animation. Okay. Today I just wanted to bring you up to date with some of the guidelines you can use to create your micro interactions. It's all about hiding things. Okay, hiding things. Which other micro interaction should we do? Okay, let's say we have, let's say I have this star right here. Okay, let me color this star red. Okay, let's say we have this star right here. Also, when we get to advanced UI design, we'll come back to prototype as well to take a look at some things. Now, let's say I want a situation whereby when I click on this star, it should grow exponentially. Okay, it should just grow when I click on it. What I can do now is to go ahead. Let me put this star. Let me give it a frame that will befit it. So let me give it a bigger frame. Let me draw a bigger frame that will be wide enough for this animation. Okay, let me give this frame a color so that you can actually see what we are doing. Let me give this frame a color. Okay, now let me select this our star and center it. So the animation we are trying to achieve now, we want a situation whereby when we click on this star, it becomes big. Okay, all you need to do is to do what? Remember, you have to create the two. This should be our start, and then this should be our end. Okay, now we can now come in here and increase the size. Select these two and then create component sets. Okay, then we head over to prototype, select this one, and then select this star inside. Okay, the star inside, and say when we click, move to this frame. Okay, and make sure you use smart animate. Make sure you use smart animate. If you don't use smart animate, it's not going to work. And then let's click back on this big one and say when we click, okay, there's something I want to show you there. Under smart animate, I want to show you something. Instead of ease out, we want it to be bouncy. So you can choose something like bouncy. Okay, good. So it bounces. So from here, we want to go back here and drag it back to this, and then also make sure we use bouncy. So once I'm done with this animation, I can go ahead and select, let me go back to design, select these two shape, okay, and then hide them so that it's white. So let's come into our frame. Okay, let's move it over here. Let's move it over here, and let's go to our assets and drag it in. So this is what we have right here. And if I go to my prototype, I should have it there. It's not here yet. Let me reload it. Let me reload it. Present. Okay, so let's test this out. Click on it, it becomes big, you know. Click on it, it becomes small. Click on it, it becomes big. Click on it, it becomes small. So it's all about beginning, your start state, your end state, your start state, and your end state. And make sure you use smart animate, okay? Start state, end state. But please, don't come and focus on animation for now. I'm begging you. You know I know how to beg you people. I am begging you people, okay? Don't come and focus on animation or prototyping for now. The basic things you need now is how to move from one screen to another. When they click on sign up, how do you move from that screen to the next screen? Okay? And that I've shown you guys. Please, don't come and start trying to wow people with animation at this stage. You will just waste your time. Nobody hires you because they want you to come and do prototyping. No. They hire you to be a solution provider. When you provide a solution, you can use your mouth and now tell the programmer, please, when they click on this star, let it grow 10%. Programmer will now program it. But it is a plus, you know, you should be able to prototype it so that you can wow stakeholders, especially stakeholders that are recruiting or stakeholders in the office. If you can do it, you can wow them. Sometimes even if your design is not that fine, if the paparazzi is going on well with the prototyping, they will just be wowed, you know. Yes, so sometimes, you know, that's why most of the time, if you are designing a website for a client, you see most people that don't know what to just put on that screen to make sure it's worth the money they've charged the person. They will just put a slider that rotates inside, so that when the person just open the website and the thing just rotates inside, the person will say, this guy don't keep me with the design, right? But at this stage, don't do that. Don't focus much on prototyping now. Once you learn how to provide solution by learning the act of actively listening, and from listening deduce a user's problem and then profile possible solutions, then you can now do the next step, which is improving your UI design. After you've mastered your UX and your UI, then as time goes on, you can start getting badass with your what? Prototyping skill. But the basic skill you need, the basic prototype skill you need right now is just what I'm showing you. Click and change states. Click and change screen. Click and change components. Click and get overlay. If you check most of your apps, this is what you see them doing. In fact, what most people do now, for most animations you see on some websites, most people create them in softwares like Cinema 4D, After Effects, Lottie, or some other animation softwares, and then render them as videos and place on the website. So when you come, you are seeing a lot of, you know, videos. Maybe you move your mouse, the video follows you and move, you know. Some of those things can be applied directly using code or some other techniques. But please don't come and kill yourself at this stage, so you don't give up. I don't want you guys to give up. There are some things, if you focus your energy on while trying to learn, you just give up. You say, I no do again. Please don't do this, okay? But the basic ones, over the course of this next week, you learn all the basic ones. By next week, we'll be will mark your first month starting this class. Okay, so let me take some questions. If you have some questions, bring it in, because we've actually come to the end of this introduction to prototyping. So if you have some questions, drop them. Genusoft asked, Uchebu Gift said, Figma Mobile is not working on my phone. I don't understand why. Well, if you can download it, it should work. If you can download it, it should work. You can share, you can post the problem you're having, the issue you're having on the Telegram group. Someone should be able to answer that. Another question from Genusoft. So for our design project now, if we want to prototype, we would have to create another screen for each. If we have 10 screens, if we want to prototype, we'll have 20 screens. Depending on what you are prototyping. But if we are just moving from login page to dashboard, we are not doing extra screens. We are not doing extra screens for that. If we are moving from login page to dashboard, we are not doing extra screen. If we want to move from overlay, you see, for the overlay, we didn't do extra screens, okay? So no, we are not doing extra screen. But if you want to create like micro interaction or advanced animation, you do extra screens. Example, if you want to create like a menu, maybe the splash screen. If you want a situation whereby if the person's finished signing up, some animation will come up and before the dashboard appears, then you need that extra screen. Okay, so that's why you need an extra screen. Olua DMs, before I go, I am on the platform WhatsApp and Telegram, but both are locked, and it seems there's another platform where other students communicate and share ideas. I'm not on those platforms. Olua, please make sure you join the group, the communication group. Check the pinned messages so that you can join the communication group. That means you'll be missing out a lot. That is also where you can drop some questions and people in the group will answer. Okay, so please try and join Olua. It's very important. Join the group. Michael Tekon, sir, what about our user research? Are we going to learn that eventually? Yes. So immediately we finish this Figma, getting to know Figma, we'll be heading to UX design. So under UX design, that's why we'll be taking a look at solving problems, right? And generating solutions for problems. That's why we'll talk about research, design thinking, and the rest of them. Okay? So yes, Michael Tekon will be taking a look at research, right? We decided to just get used to Figma before we move into research. And then after research, we come back to UI design to take a look at advanced designing techniques, okay? Boeing Bode, what is the difference between frame selection and auto layout? Yeah, frame is basically your screen, okay, or a container holding your element. Auto layout is an automatic layout. It's a kind of frame that gives you automatic flow of elements inside. I think we've answered it before, inside that frame. Okay. Okay, sir, understood perfectly. Okay. Kizito, sir, do you answer my question on how prototyping and hover? I don't know if it's this network that's also affecting this question, but I don't get the question. If you want to apply states, you know, if you go back to our button, those are our buttons we've created. We already created all the states. So if you want to apply animations to them, all we need to do is to go back to our main button component, then animate all those from click. That one we said hover. We'll now drag, go to prototype, drag to it, and then select hover. Then it will work. Okay? That's how it works. My first question, why must we convert to component set before we perform such kind of prototyping? Okay, why we are converting to component set is because this is one element that has micro interactions inside. That is why. If you notice, the first one we didn't convert to component. If you are moving from screen to screen, okay, that's why I set this out. If you are moving from frame to frame, you don't need to convert to component. But if it is a component element you are trying to animate or you are trying to prototype, then you have to convert them to components. Then inside that component, it is the variant that you are using to create the animation by hiding some things in particular in one, or changing the sizes. Once you change size, change color, change text, Figma will recognize all these things and be able to interpolate between them. So I hope you understand Genius Soft. So if you want to move from one screen to another, you don't need to convert to components. Example, if you want to move from sign up page to sign in page, you don't need prototype, okay? But if you want something to happen in between them, if you want something to happen in between them as a component, let's assume you have a component, like for instance, this particular hide receipt we did here is a component. You can see it's one component, but then we want animation to appear inside, to, you know, some interaction to happen inside. That is why we converted it to a component and then use the variant to hide this other one, so that when we click hide, it hides. When we click print, it comes out. Okay? Any other question? Because we're about to call it a day, maybe a night. I hope you guys learned something. Monday we go again, so tomorrow make sure you rest. It's important. It's okay not to come back to these videos today, okay? So you can watch film and do some TikToks and rest small. Then maybe tomorrow you can just use 1 hour or 2 hours to just check it out again. Then prepare for Monday. Okay? Okay, great. So if there are no other questions, I'll go ahead and end the live stream now. Okay? Now, the last thing I'll show you guys before we go. How do you make an animation to start automatically? Because if you notice, most of these ones will be doing is either we click or we hover. It's either we click or we hover. Now we are still going to use this star to do something like that. So let's go back to star, our star component. Now if you want your animation to start automatically, all what you need to do, this place where you have the start, instead of on click, okay, we have other things there. Let me create something else. I want to create something else. Okay, I think this one we'll just cover it within the week, because I will need to do some extra design elements before we do that. So we'll cover this one within the week, but there is a way to trigger elements automatically, and that is using, let me just drop this here and show you. That is using this this one called after delay. Okay, so like I said, we'll take a look at this during the week. That is using this thing called after delay. Okay, after delay right here. If you use after delay, you set the delay to 1 second, 1 milliseconds, so that it comes in automatically and plays. So we'll take a look at it in the next in the coming week. All the projects we are going to be doing, like from next week now, once we finish designing, we'll add prototype. So from your screen, by Monday, from your screen, you should be able to move from one to another, okay? And we continue designing like that. If you notice, we've been doing this design in a way that is incremental, so that it's not tiring. So you can also follow along. Yes, Shinayo, it will. It just depends on you to design it. Like if you start designing it, you can start adding some realistic effect. Now, if you notice, the way this place is sharp, it's making the receipt effect not to look realistic. But if you come to the original design now, if I come back here, how do I make this receipt look more realistic, as if it's coming out from this dark opening? It's easy. I can go ahead and add a new color. Okay, change it to gradient. This is not a graphic design class. So there are things I don't want you people to come and focus on, because to me they look like waste of time. When you learn how to solve problem, you can become better at graphic design later, or when we get to advanced UI, we'll take a look at it. If I increase this, let me make everything 100 so you can see what I'm saying. Let me also make it 100. Now, if I come here and make this 0, you can see this part. I can actually see this part. All I need to do is to keep dragging this to this point. It will get to a point. Now, if you look at this effect, you can see that the ending part of this particular thing here is kind of lost inside the dark part. Now, let me close this. Let me come back here. Oops, where is it? Where is it? So now you can see it looks a little bit more realistic. It looks a little bit more realistic. You can see now it's looking as if it's coming out from this black side. So you can see it looks a little bit more realistic now when it's coming out, right? Okay, if I still go back here, and let's assume on this particular one, let's go inside the layer and actually hide it. Let's make opacity 0. Now let's come back and replay it. So basically, so yes, high fidelities will always come out better. But there are just some techniques, just some little techniques. Okay, we'll take a look at some of those techniques in our advanced UI design. But like I said, this is not a graphic design class. You get better with experience. Don't come and start struggling with these things. These things they are not yet relevant to be for you to be employed as a UI UX designer. Okay. But over time, you build up all these skills. You can't build all these skills in 3 months. These 3 months, we want to make sure you focus on things that actually matters to recruiters. Okay. So, any other question? Because I think we are done. We are done with today's session. So, any other question? I'm going to stay in for 5 minutes more. If there are no questions, then we call it a night. So, Shina, Yomi, John, I hope you understand better now. And if you also want it to look very well like receipts, I'm just trying to make sure Shina, Yomi, John doesn't get discouraged. If I want it to look well like a receipt, I can duplicate this. Any other question? Okay, Shina Yomi, you got it right. I wanted to create something here so that we can subtract it, but no need. Any other question? Okay, no other question. Voila. So let's call it a night. Like I said, go and rest. It's okay to rest. So go and rest, go and do other things. Eat, watch movie, do some TikToks, and yeah, rest. Then later on you can come back to the videos and check them out. So have a good night, everyone. If you are not on our social media, go and join us on our social media platform, Designgate NG. If you would also want to join the guided assistant, you can make payment on the portal and join. Okay. If you are not on the Telegram communication channel, please do well to join as well, so that you can drop in some questions. Even if you are not on guided assistance, you can actually ask questions and get answers from there. Okay, I've said the voila so that we can be at peace today. Okay, bye guys.